Hello, and welcome back to the sixth annual uh, CDHW Disability Health Research Symposium. I very much appreciate all who were able to attend this morning and look forward to continuing the discussion with you this afternoon. My name is Dr. Michelle Meade, and I have the honor of being the director of the U of M Center for Disability Health and Wellness. Today, we are making space to honor two disability advocates, Michael Harris and Jill Babcock, Esquire. While recent years have seen the passing of too many of our friends and colleagues with disabilities, the loss of these two is recent and particularly acute because of how each served as a liaison who helped the public, specific communities, and particularly the healthcare and research communities to understand the concerns of people with disabilities while partnering to problem solve and advance civil rights, health, and access to environments, resources, and opportunities. We are fortunate today to have representatives with us to share and honor these advocates, as well as some of their family members. We'll start with Mrs. Lisa Franklin, President of Warriors on Wheels of Metropolitan Detroit, who will share and honor about Ms. Babcock, and then move on to Dr. Gianna Rodriguez, who is a professor of physical medicine and rehabilitation and the director of spinal cord injury medicine here at Michigan Medicine, who will honor Mr. Harris. Lisa?
Sorry about that. Good afternoon. Again, I'm Lisa Franklin. I'm the CEO and president of Warriors on Wheels. And it was an honor to be asked to do this today. Jill was our friend. She was our confidant, and she was the person that made sure that the city of Detroit, the state of Michigan, recognized the issues that people with disabilities had in the community. This is a picture of Jill and I when she came to one of our membership meetings, when she presented to all of us our rights under fair housing. She made sure that we were connected, and she made sure that she stood up for us in this community. Next slide, please. This is Jill at work. Jill was just amazing. She was so warm and caring and giving. And when we first met Jill, she loved us and we loved her. This is when she did the fair housing talk with all of us and helped us to understand our rights in fair housing. And she was just so dedicated. She was the only wheelchair worker down at City Hall. And she was there every moment that she could. Even during COVID, she represented. And when she got back to work, it was a struggle because of the lack of accessibility in the building, but Jill fought and got that building accessible, at least on the floor where she worked. Next slide, please. This is when we had the eclipse of the sun. And Jill, as you can see her there in the red, she made sure that all of us had glasses that day as we went out to view the solar eclipse. It was just wonderful. Next slide, please. We also had fun. Jill would go to the games with us. This is a Pistons game. Jill and her sister Jenny. Jenny and Jill were everywhere. Jenny, bless her heart, made sure that Jill got wherever she needed to be. And we just had a lot of fun. We would go to the Tigers games, and Jill and Jenny would come to all of our special events. Next slide, please. This is when Jenny and Jill brought Jill to the Department of Justice. We had them in after paratransit had to make the changeover. This is when we denied and spoke up that Veolia wasn't doing their job. They were trying to give them another 5-year contract. And Jill came to the meeting with the Department of Justice, and this was the team. You see Marguerite Maddox, Richard Clay, Sabrina, myself, and Jill. And wherever we needed to fight, Jill was there supporting us. If she couldn't be there in presence, she was definitely there in spirit. So we're going to really miss our friend Jill. She was awesome. She was one of a kind. That smile tells her spirit, and we just loved her so much. And her family, to all her family that are listening, we thank you because in lieu of flowers and gifts, for Jill, the family recommended that everyone send Warriors on Wheels monetary donations. And to date, we've gotten over $6,000 from the family. And so we're putting it to good use. So thank you all for listening. She's going to be sorely, sorely missed, sorely, sorely missed. And we just hope that we can continue her legacy. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
And I believe that we have Jenny Babcock here to talk as well.
Yes, thank you. Hi, I'm Jenny Babcock, and on behalf of Jill's whole family, most of whom are here by Zoom, and her many, many friends that I also think have joined today, thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Tamika. These two women are true friends and true warriors for justice. They could run the world, and in my opinion, they should be running the world. So thank you for everything you do. And thank you to India and to Andy as well, and the rest of the Center for Disability Health and Wellness for this recognition of Jill. It's a true honor, and one we all accept with really big gratitude. We really appreciate it. So again, I'm Jenny Babcock. I'm just one of Jill's two sisters. I want to point out that my mom, Patricia Babcock, is here by Zoom, I think, along with our other sister Lisa and her partner Paul, and Jill's son Kieran, I think, joined from Mexico, where he's traveling this weekend. And his partner Ellie is probably on as well with their baby, Jill's beloved grandson, whom she was able to know for a full year. His name is Harvey, and maybe he'll make some noise during this broadcast. Her aunts, cousins, and lots of Jill's friends are here. So thank you so much for this. We lost Jill just 4 months ago, June 22nd. She was only 54 years old. And as Lisa indicated, this loss is so big to everyone who knew and loved her, and also to many people who just knew her by reputation only. I wake up every day still, as probably many of you do when you lose people you love, just not quite believing that she's not physically here with us anymore. She fully lived her 54 years. She traveled around the US and around the world, and she got into places that were built in the medieval years, and in Renaissance years, she made it happen. She spent a lot of time with her beloved family on her beloved Lake Huron beaches, ate, drank, and was very, very merry with the many people that she adored and who adored her, right, Lisa? To Lisa's pictures, you can see that. She also, though, had a very serious side, and she pushed tirelessly for justice for people with disabilities for decades, and not just people for disabilities. Disability rights are everybody's rights, right? This matters for all of us. And she felt that acutely, and she worked on behalf of everyone. She was a North Star for many of us who want to push this world to be more accessible and just. She was passionate, and she used her internal fire, and she had a humongous, for a tiny person, she had a humongous internal fire. And she was also very strategic. She was a lawyer and had an LLM, and she employed her legal skills and her intellect to those ends. She was very strategic about how she approached things. So for the last 30 years, Jill lived with a serious and degenerative neurological condition of unknown origin that ultimately caused her to use a wheelchair and lose a number of motor functions. But I do want to say that she was pushing for people's rights long before she developed her own disability. She was attuned to the world, right, and to the people around her. George Bernard Shaw wrote that the reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. And Jill, by that measure, was completely unreasonable. We loved her for it, though. She was brilliant. Jill built partnerships and lifelong friendships with people like Lisa and Tamika, who were already inclined to be doing this work. But she did more than that. She built an army. She recruited a whole army of other people to whom it never would have occurred to fight for disability rights, but for their friendships with and their love for Jill. And they started fighting for disability rights, and they are still doing it today. I think that's what accounts for the donations made to Lisa. And we joke about how the hockey moms of Detroit, Jill's son played hockey. The hockey moms of Detroit, if they encounter with Jill a place that is not accessible, that business owner is never going to hear the end of it. And that is good. That's what we want. That's what we want. Some examples of her work include a groundbreaking 2011 lawsuit against Detroit Metro Airport and then Northwest Airlines after Northwest Airlines damaged her wheelchair just one too many times during the flights. I want to point out that that resulted in a settlement that was very meaningful and improved services to people with disabilities, but those wheelchairs are still being damaged today. The work is not done. Not the work on the disability activist side, the work on the airport side is not done, right? Another is her work with the city that Lisa referenced. For the last 7 years, every single day, she pushed the housing department to think about accessibility in connection with affordability. The two things have to be considered together all the time. What is heartbreaking to me is any concern that she left us feeling as though her work wasn't done. She wanted so badly to make complete change during her lifetime. So to Shaw's point, she was unreasonable, but she made a lot of progress. She's still with us. Her legacy lives on. And I will say, this is probably true for Lisa too, her voice is like very much in my ear every minute of every day. Every time I step outside of my house, every time I see a crack in a sidewalk or a sign on any building that says wheelchair and handicap access, go around to the back. I'm going to make it really hard for you to get into my building, to get into this space. Every time I see stairs on the approach to a building and no ramp, I hear Jill in my voice, right? And so every time I see a bathroom that doesn't have an accessible stall yet, I mean, come on, give me a break. In this day and age, that happens way, way, way too much. And conversely, every time I do see a ramp that some building has some business owner has built beautifully, into they've used universal design or something like that. Every time there is a restroom that's accessible for everyone, when I hear about the airlines thinking about how to improve services, right? I also see Jill in that. So in closing, she had a tough life in many ways, fighting for access, and her health issues were a struggle. But she brought so much joy. You can see from that smile, she brought so much joy and love and life to the things that she did. And that's her legacy. And I just want to, again, thank the center and thank Lisa and Tamika so much on behalf of our whole family and all of our friends for letting us, for honoring Jill in this way. Really, we appreciate it. We're with you in this struggle, and I just really appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And once again, I think what we heard from Jenny is both reflecting on Jill's legacy, her spirit, and the importance of us all working together. We now have the honor of hearing from Dr. Gianna Rodriguez about our friend and colleague, Mr. Michael Harris. Gianna?
Good afternoon, everybody. I am so honored to talk about Mike. He is Michael Harris. In a way, Mike was a mentor to me, apart from, me providing some medical care to Mike. I think that with every visit that Mike made with me, he always taught me a thing or two, and was always encouraging, encouraging of, what I do, both clinical wise, research wise, and whatnot. And he also talked about his work, and how passionate he was about his work. So Mike was primarily a government relations director for the PVA. And he took it to heart and was very serious about his role. And he always said that the government relations part of what he did was one of the most critical components of the PVA. He wanted to live life with a disability for himself and for others, to where it was completely accessible. So that's what he fought for. He was a very strong advocate of civil rights issues such as, the ADA and the Air Carrier Access Act, and also for fair housing. So he did so much for the members of the PVA, and did so much for the disability community as a whole. He never said, I did this. He always said, as a group, the PVA did this, but he was a strong moving force for the PVA. So for example, he told me about it. I was very proud of this. He got Detroit to redo about 80,000 curb cuts. I think they start with discussions, but when, people are not necessarily listening or doing anything about this, they filed a lawsuit. And so, the curb cuts, I think in the past were not compliant at all. And now we have about 80,000 curb cuts in Detroit, okay, because of Mike's work. And he always said, it needs to be done correctly, and aside from having it be done correctly, he wanted to make it a learning tool for everybody, not just for, people like me who, who work with people with disability, but also for everyone, the general community. And apart from it being helpful for people with disability, he always said it's also helpful for, for moms with strollers and things like that. And true to the fact, yes. I've visited Detroit a little bit more, and my boy is now 5 years old, but when he was a little younger, and still he still wants a stroller now and again, and absolutely, definitely helpful, not just to people with disability, but to everybody who needs some sort of wheels. And then sadly, at one point, they had to sue University of Michigan. And this was essentially for the football stadium. And, initially, I think the plan was to put in just maybe 5 or 7 wheelchair accessible seating or areas. And they said no. And so discussion, and again, I was very proud of this because they had to sue. And it went from 7 wheelchair seats to about 350 wheelchair seats at the football stadium, University of Michigan's football stadium. And then also, apart from that, they pushed for, accessible bathrooms, like wheelchair accessible bathrooms. And I thought they would be given a few, but I think at this point, University of Michigan went beyond and actually gave them 21 wheelchair accessible bathrooms. So, and he, as mentioned, he was a driving force, and he was very proud of, we were able to get them to do this, almost also saying, you guys can do this, and not just us, but all of you can be advocates as well. Okay. And then also, I think because of their work with the curb cuts and things like that, they were able to review the drawings for the renovation or the creation of the Detroit River Walk before it was even built. So, he was proud of that as well. And then also, in not just in big ways, but in small ways, like he would push for loan closets for adaptive sports equipment and things like that, because he was also, he was one to not sit around. He wanted to get out, and he was very involved in the community, very involved in his family, very involved in a whole lot of different things. And he truly believed that it wasn't just about the physical, it was also about the spiritual and the psychological health overall of people, with everybody. So He was a fierce and compassionate advocate, as mentioned, and he really had hearts beating in rhythm with a community of people with spinal cord injury. His dedication to people with spinal cord injury was not just a calling. I think he was deeply religious as well. I mean, the nice thing about caring for people with spinal cord injury, I mean, it can be tough, but also I think the relationships that have been developed. So Mike and I became friends. He was not just a patient, but we truly became friends. And I knew his dedication to people with spinal cord injury was a vocation to him. It was a deep, soulful commitment to justice, dignity, and hope. He saw beyond limitations, focusing instead on the strength, resilience, and dreams of every person with a spinal cord injury. And as mentioned, not just, I think, through his role with the PVA, but even, with us, he was supportive of the work that we did. And he was tirelessly advocating, and he was always a comforting presence and always provided a genuine human connection. He was always a strong voice for those who needed to be heard and a strong light for those finding their way through the challenges of life after spinal cord injury. He was always willing to volunteer and help, and always willing to talk to, a person or so, whether it be a person with an acute spinal cord injury or a chronic spinal cord injury, is always willing to be that hopeful voice. And to provide guidance and guidance through other people's lives. Particularly, I think those who were younger and more acute, because he himself lived through life with a spinal cord injury. So he knew the challenges and the difficulties of having a spinal cord injury. So his spirit was not only in the changes he helped create, but in the countless lives he touched with empathy, courage, and unwavering belief in what's possible. So the nice thing is he was always encouraging of my research and always supported my research. I know some of my research studies were not easy to do, but he was always there, willing to volunteer and to sign up. And always telling me, oh, DOD or PVA has this grant funding available, apply for it. So encouraging in that way. So as mentioned, Mike became a good friend. And actually the week before, a few days before he passed away, I saw him. And it was difficult for me to know that he had passed away because I had just seen him and he was okay. So, it hit me hard when Mike passed away. So some people like Mike enter our lives quietly as patients, but leave as friends who forever change the way we see the world. I didn't think I'd get emotional, but here I am emotional. Mike was one of those rare souls whose presence left warmth long after the moment had passed. In his journey, I witnessed courage that never wavered, humor that softened even the hardest days, and grace that spoke louder than words. What began in care became lasting friendship, rooted in trust, laughter, and shared humanity. Mike taught me that healing is not only of the body, but of the heart, the soul, the spirit, and that love, dignity, and connection can outlast even the frailty of time. Though his absence is deeply felt, his spirit remains. In every life, like mine, he's touched in every act of kindness inspired by his memory, and in the quiet reminder that friendship is one of the life's most sacred forms of healing. And for this, I am very fortunate and grateful.
Thank you so much, Gianna. What a beautiful tribute about Mike's impact on you and the world. I think with both Jill and Mike, what we have are fierce warriors who've made a difference, who make lives better. I know Mike's family is here. I'm sorry we did not bring them on as well, but please, we want to thank you for sharing Mike with us. Know how much of a meaning he had for our world and how much of a difference he made in people's lives. He had deep friendships, he touched people, and both he and Jill made a difference. Thank you both so much. And we would thank them and remember them. And we look, you know, we recognize the importance of these connections, these people who are there in the community doing the work every day, who are willing to take the time out to partner with us as well here for healthcare, for research, for working to improve and work on human rights and participation. So with that, we're going to allow us all to take a break to celebrate, our own family, to make sure we take care of our own health. And we'll see you back at 1:10 as the CDHW Disability Health Symposium continues this afternoon. Thank you once again.